These 10 tips are going to improve your playstyle and quality of life in Space Marines 2. I've been playing now for about 20 to 25 hours, and these are the most pivotal things that I've learned in order to make your game as fun as humanly possible. So let's go ahead and jump into the first tip. Now, something that I didn't know that became very apparent after I started playing the game is killing the Majoris enemies or bigger enemies around these smaller horde enemies will automatically destroy these smaller enemies. There is a reason for this, and it's actually pretty cool. The Tyranids are a hive mind system, and anytime there is a major enemy amongst a bunch of smaller ones, all of the smaller ones are connected via mind link to that Majoris enemy. So targeting those Majoris enemies is going to be your best bet, and not worrying about all the little cannon fodder running around, because after you destroy that Majoris enemy, all the rest of the smaller ones will get a green glow on them and they will die immediately. This doesn't matter a ton in the first few difficulty levels, but as you get up into the higher difficulties, it is absolutely pivotal for you to target out these Majoris enemies, take them out quickly in order to move through your operations fast. Now for tip number 2, when leveling up your classes, make sure that you are leveling up a class that uses the same weapons. For example, the Vanguard and Sniper have the exact same sidearm, or the Tactical and Bulwark can use the same melee weapons. The reason you want to do this, and the reason it's going to make your leveling experience more efficient, is because weapons have shared experience among all classes. So anytime you have a weapon equipped that a different class can use, that weapon is going to level up whether or not you switch to a different class or not. This is also incredibly beneficial because requisitions do get harder to come by as you're leveling up, and anytime you want to make a weapon mastercrafted, artificer, or relic, it's going to be much more efficient if you're making the exact same weapon that instead of finding all the different upgrades you need within the game. And this is the most efficient way that I have personally found to level up weapons, but let me know down in the comments if you found a different way. Next up, we have a combat tip here for you. Using executions will allow you to regain health or armor depending on your current situation. We see something very similar to this if you've played Lies of P or Bloodborne. For example, Lies of P, anytime you guard counter, you're going to get some health back. Same thing with Bloodborne, and it's no different in Space Marines 2 when you have a little bit of a white health bar and you can regain some health via parry or execution. Now in this same vein of executions, you are going to get different amounts of armor or health back depending on if you kill a major or minor enemy with these executions. Based on a smaller enemy, an execution is going to give you 1 armor piece back, and if you kill an extremist boss type, which is one of the bigger ones, you are going to be able to restore 2 armor slots via a successful execution. This game is incredibly rewarding when you get those executions or critical strikes off, and at the higher levels it is almost imperative that you do so because you are taking so much damage. You need all the help you can get. Next up is a tip that I actually didn't know until one of my buddies pointed it out to me, but there is no loot share in this game. For those of you who played games in the past where loot is just on the ground and you can run up to it and everyone in the party can snag it, Space Marines 2 is not like that. If you grab an ammo box or an armor upgrade, then it's gone from the map. So make sure that when you are looting, you take the whole team's needs into account, because in higher levels, ammo and other supplies are very few and far between, and messing up the looting system for your team can actually hinder your progress of the level that you're currently playing. A great example of this is if there's an ammo box laying there, make sure that you don't have a heavy in your group, because typically the heavies are going to be burning through ammo and they don't have a melee option. So in order for them to be the most effective, they need to keep their rounds flowing, and if you take all the ammo boxes, then they're not going to be able to perform as part of your team. For tip number 5, we're going to be talking a little bit about gene seeds. Gene seeds are a fantastic resource to use in Space Marines 2 if you can find it. Now the reason you want this particular item so bad is because it's going to give you way more XP at the end of the level than it would if you've never found it. Now XP in this game is a little bit rough, especially if you're on the lower levels trying to level up, but getting this gene seed is going to spike the XP at the end of your mission, allowing you to gain levels faster. Now you're going to want to protect this item with your life and give it to the tankiest player on your team. The reason you want to do this is A, it needs to remain safe, but B, if you end up holding a gene seed and you drop it from dying, that gene seed will be lost and you will no longer be able to pick it back up, therefore losing the XP you could have gained from giving it to the most tanky and safe player on your team. Now some of you might be thinking, well, Pastor Gaines, it can't be that much extra XP. Well, you would be wrong. It's actually 30% increased XP at the end of the level, which is a massive jump comparatively to what you would be getting. So like I said, if you find a gene seed, guard it with your life, give it to the most tanky player out there to make sure that you get this benefit at the end of the level. Tip number 6 here is actually kind of a no-brainer, but a lot of people in my randoms have been doing this. You need to not take on every single encounter that you find. There are parts of missions where you can run straight past and not aggro any enemies, and the faster that you can get through a level, the faster you can level up. Each mission that I've played so far has been pretty much a half hour or more to complete, so if you're not going through and doing every single engagement and killing every single small enemy that you can just run past, then you're going to be able to have a much better time leveling through the very grindy system that is Space Marine 2 leveling. Next up, for tip number 7, for a better quality of life as you go through Space Marines 2, you need to cancel out the reinforcements of the enemy. This is absolutely key in this game, and if you don't do this, it will slow you way down. So in order to do this, anytime you see a skull over an enemy head, and you're also going to have that accompanied with a sound kind of like a small siren, you then need to go find that enemy and catch them in time in order for them not to call in the second wave of enemies. In order to do this, you very simply need to murder that enemy before the entirety of that skull fills up with red, because once that happens, you are in for another wave of enemies, taking up your valuable resources, ammo, and time to get through the game. I have found that if you are a sniper class or a vanguard class, then you can really hone in on these enemies, allowing your team not to worry about them because you have it covered. For tip number 8, this is one more item I didn't know existed in the game, but every single class is going to have a class-specific perk. What I mean by this is if you go into your perks tab and go up to the top left of the perks, you're going to find your class perk. For example, the Bulwark is going to have a starting perk of an increased 20%. Obviously that makes sense because we're a tank, but if you go to a different class, let's say the Vanguard, you're then going to have a different perk entirely. In this case, contested health regenerates 50% faster. Every single class is going to have a benefit to it, and it's good to go through here and see which class would best suit you before you even jump into the game to begin with. Now, we've talked so far about a lot of teamwork and making sure your team is best equipped to deal with the challenges of Space Marine 2 operations. However, in tip number 9, everything I'm about to say is going to completely go against that. So what I mean is at the end of every single operation, you are going to get bonus experience for being the best at a certain thing. For example, you're going to get a plus experience boost if you have the most melee kills of the group, or if you get the most specialized kills in the group, you're also going to get more XP. So in this way, it almost rewards you for being a selfish player, going after all the executions, all the kills, and being the biggest menace you possibly can in order to make sure that you win all of these different XP boosts. However, playing this selfishly really does not reward you a ton because you're not going to get that much extra experience for getting the best in a certain category. I think they should probably up this a little bit just to make the competition a little bit more fun, but as of right now, it is a nice little boost in order to help you level up just a little bit quicker. And the last tip I want to give you guys comes down to melee weapons. There are a few different melee weapons in Space Marine 2, and each one is going to have a specific moveset that benefits that particular weapon. Some of the moves of different weapons are going to provide AoE attacks, other moves are going to provide very precise slashes, but knowing which moves to use and which weapon to use based on what encounter you're going into is going to be pivotal for your gameplay. I recommend trying all the melee weapons out to see which one you are most comfortable with, and then getting comfortable with the moveset of that particular weapon. I personally am much more comfortable with the chainsword than I am with the combat knife, but that doesn't mean the combat knife is bad, it just means that for my particular playstyle and my class, the chainsword is the best option for me. I play Bulwark, which means I am in the fray a ton and I want to have as much cleave as possible, and I also get some really awesome AoE attacks from the chainsword in general. But these are the 10 tips that I've found so far that have been most helpful for me going through Space Marines 2. I'm sure there's a ton of different things that you guys have learned as you play this game, so definitely leave them down in the comments below. I've had an absolute blast playing so far, and I'm super excited to continue, and if you want to play with me, we do have a Discord available, and it's going to be linked down in the description below. But with that being said, brothers, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.